Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2024. So much to chat about as we dive into this live session. Obviously, starting off with the fact that I did switch my live time and maybe didn't make that a great announcement, but uh, this year. Oh, and so I'm having a little bit of a hiccup here. So I am going to try and change my setting. Otherwise, I am going to be hearing myself talk back to myself. So let me try and fix that for a second. Okay. All right. I'm trying to fix this right now. Okay. Let's see if that works. Um, that did not work. Sorry. This is part of the live session. So I think I got to undo my mic for now. As people are coming in, I just had to unmute my mic. I had a little bit of a hiccup, a little bit of an issue. This is part of going on. Everybody coming in. Sorry, something really strange is going on with StreamYard. Can anybody who's on this live session again, I want to make sure we have an effective live. Can you tell me if my voice is doubling up and if you can hear me? Wow. Okay. So, again, let's see here. Sorry, I'm just trying to play around with the settings. Um, for some reason, I can hear myself. I've never experienced this with StreamYard. I'm going to. I don't, sorry, buddy. I really apologize. This is. I can every time I say something, there's about a 3 second delay, and I'm hearing it right back to myself. Let me try and really problem solve this really quickly. Okay, so this. I don't believe that this change is going to work. It's not working. Let me try one other thing. Sincerely apologize to everybody. I'm not sure what's happening on this end. Um, this is the joy of going live is that sometimes we have these hiccups, and I appreciate everybody. I see everybody's hanging out with me, and I. So I am going to try something else. Okay. Sorry, really quickly for everybody who's here. Yeah, I muted my computer volume. Can somebody just come in really quickly and say, hey, Jeff, we can hear you. I just want to make sure 100% you can hear me right now. I did just mute my computer volume. Thanks for the feedback, Matthew. Can everybody hear me right now? Just anybody, if they, you can come in and comment and let me know, I really appreciate it because I absolutely want to make sure we're in the new year. It's been a long time since I've gone live, and I want to make sure everybody's getting value. Can everybody hear me okay? And I'm gonna wait for people to come in and let me know, please. Okay. Thanks, Brad. Okay. Wow, what a way to start off the year. Okay, so something was happening. I had to unplug my mic, which is unfortunate because I just bought a new mic. We're just gonna roll with it for now because I know we're already 4:41 in, and I want to make sure that we can get through this live. So let's start over. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for coming back. Obviously, we all know 2023 was a very sleepy year. And so we are going to do our best and hope for the best in 2024 and see how things progress. So, as we dive in, just a few business items. And again, I'm going to try to go pretty fast, just acknowledging that we had a little bit of a hiccup today. So, if it's your first time here, my name's Jeff Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and we have an interview mastery course just today till 11:59 Pacific time, $200 off of that course if you use the coupon code NY. Happy New Year. H Happy H Y 24. Clearly, I'm having some issues today, so everybody, stick with me. I'll throw out that coupon code again. Official launch date for my AI practice interview tool, February 26th. That's going to be our global launch, and with that global launch, uh, we are going to be giving it out to everybody by February 26th. So what can you do now? You can sign up as an early adopter. We are going to let early adopters test it. We already are so that we can get great user feedback and make the tool better based on what users want, what you want. But even if you don't want to test the tool, the free version, and give feedback, if you sign up as an early adopter, go to practiceinterviews.com and sign up. The reality is we're going to give you that big discount to just come on and be an early user as we continue to iterate and build the platform. So sign up as an early adopter. We'll get you on an email list, make sure we're giving you all the updates you need. Quickly, on Monday, yesterday, I launched a video talking about a time you had to overcome an obstacle. This is a very, very common question or some iteration of that question. Obstacle, challenge, something like that, but obstacle, very common interview question. Check out that video. I answered it through the lens of an edge manager, but it doesn't really matter. We got to talk about the data, conversations, execution, and the launching, presenting, documenting. We really got to go in and talk through all those obstacles, and that's what I did in that video on Monday. If you like what I'm doing today, please smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I do new original content every Monday and live now, 9 a.m. time every day. Thank you so much for the technical difficulties and hanging in there with me. Let's dive in. And in any downtime, we'll talk about navigating 2024 job market. What are the chances for two strong lead hire, one lead no hire, and a technical and one leading hire for googliness L3? Okay, so this overall is pretty good, right? So the biggest thing to remember is you've done work. So what happens moving forward, we can't control, and we know that that's not great, right? We don't want to hear that. We don't want to sit back and say, okay, look, great, I can't control it, but what are the odds? But you've done the hard work. That's the good news. This is a decent chance. The strong hires and leading hire are obviously all hiring signs. Now, when you have one leading no hire, remember they're looking at interview feedback. So collectively, they're saying, is this candidate strong enough to move forward? And part of what should be happening in hiring is that the hiring manager should be writing a statement of support to overcome leading no hire and back up why the leading hires are well. The strong hires are clear. Not a lot of people get two strong hires in the process. So that's a good start. It's a collective feedback. Chances, it's no, you definitely do have a chance. We can hear you. First mic is working on YouTube. I really want to use that mic, but we're just going to skip it for today. Okay, let's cut it out a little bit. Please let me know if it cuts out at all. Sounds great. Turning it off. Okay, good. We got through some technical difficulties if you're just joining us. We had a little bit of a hiccup. Jeff, Happy New Year. How are you? I have one question. Interviewed in December and not selected. A recruiter told me new positions will open soon. Now positions are open. Should I apply or contact the recruiter? I always go through the recruiter. Okay, and the reason why is it's a path of least resistance right now. I can't guarantee that the recruiter is going to, but let's talk about the steps. We always got to talk about the steps and remind each other of the steps. What are the steps you need to take? If you're going to send your recruiter a position, one, maybe two, We're not gonna send that recruiter 5 or 10 positions. They're just not gonna help you. It's too much work. I recommend one, hyperlink in the job link to the specific description, put 3 to 5 bullets for why you're a fit for the role, provide your email. I know you're emailing them, so it's ridiculous, but provide your email and phone number, and then provide your availability to talk about that role in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Why do we take all these steps? You just made it much easier for your recruiter to help you. If you want them to help you have to make it easy, especially because sometimes recruiters work on like or similar roles. So let's say your recruiter's Jane, but Jane's not working on that role. Bob's working on that role, or she can quickly look at the system that Bob's working on that role, quickly send it over to Bob, and literally Jane can forward all that information to Bob in one moment. And then, sorry, the last thing, attach an updated resume that's aligned to the role. The easiest way to get role alignment for any job on your resume, you throw the job description in your resume into ChatGPT and say, identify the 5 themes, items, responsibilities that match my resume and role, and then boom, that's your role. And it's like, happy to talk more about that if you have questions. Okay, we're gonna go past all the feedback on the mic, and we'll dive into these questions. Happy New Year. What are the chances? Okay, so we answered that question. Happy New Year to you as well. I was approved by HC as well, but due to the freeze, had to redo the interview again. That approval expired. Will the past approval help me to clear it again? Yeah, I mean, good data is good data. If you've passed HC in the past, like it's always a positive sign. It's just been so funky since the freeze. I'm getting a lot of data now that interview feedback, they've extended that out to 18 months, which I think is a really good policy, but it's just been tricky. So just something to keep in mind. But if you passed HC in the past, always that's a positive sign. Oh no. Um, oh, it's not audible. Oh, okay, that's okay. And everybody, just again, just want to make sure everybody can still hear me. Okay? And if anybody can just leave a comment on that, that would be great. Because I see the sound is not as good. All right, we're gonna try something, and I appreciate everybody sticking with me here. Let's just try and see if we can get this audio fixed. I know it's been super frustrating. This is kind of what you learn when you go live all the time. That let's see, see how. Let's see. It looks like this is working. So let's come back in. Okay. So how is the audio now? And again, I sincerely apologize. This isn't the way we wanted to start off the year, but sometimes things happen, and we gotta kind of roll with it. And that's a part of life and a big part of interviewing, obviously. All right. Not the stream is not as good as other meetings, but I got to go back. Sorry to this other question. Let's go here. Hey Jeff, how would you answer the interview question? Tell me about a time you used data to create selling stories. This role is for a consumer product goods company. So CPG, just in case anybody's wondering, consumer product goods, and there's a lot of those kinds of companies out there. So remember, whenever I get one of these types of questions in the live sessions, tell me about a time questions. How would I answer it? Well, I haven't really used data to sell stories. I mean, I guess I technically have, but I wouldn't want to give my example. The example's got to be unique to you. So use data to create selling stories. So the first step you're going to take is the first action after you give that very brief situation and task is you're going to dive into how you parse through the data and how you uncover data by working with other stakeholders. That's going to be a big part of your start, but then use data to create selling stories. So you're talking about really the data dive, but then you're pushing into how you tested doing that, how you executed with the data, and then launched, presented, and documented. These are the critical, critical steps. And so those should be all the components of your actions. And then, of course, in the results, you're going to bring in as many numbers as you can because if they're trying to say data to create selling stories, as much numbers as you can bring in is going to be great. Okay, everybody's liking the new mic. The mic also has dark mode, so it sounds a little bit. It will make my voice sound a little bit richer. So hopefully people like that. Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks for dealing with this. I mean, this is again um, the fortunate piece about having gone live. We're approaching 150 live sessions. I think for me, 156 is just a great number because that's literally just 3 years of every week going live. So we're approaching that number, and you just know that things happen sometimes. If anybody was around, let me know actually in the comments just for fun. Was anybody who's here now, and it's probably a low likelihood, but if anybody was here for the fire alarm live, let me know. That was a crazy scenario where I had a fire alarm go off on and off for an hour and a half, or it was like a 2 hour live and it went off every 3 minutes. It was crazy. Okay, let's dive back into questions. Uh, a consulting recruiter said that landed me Google interviews in 2022 said there are new vacancies now. The only difference in the process will be a 50-question questionnaire about behavioral. Okay. She said that even people on hold will need to do this to continue. Is this a new step? Did not see anything about this step on the internet. Have you heard about it? So I would need to know more about the company you're interviewing for because I'm not familiar with the process that you're mentioning. Hey, Clark. Hey, thanks for the advice earlier. I wish recruiters would do the no update updates as you suggest. Would you think it's looking negative in terms of my application? Well, so I think I've talked about this a few times, but one of the parts that I helped build part of the onboarding training for recruiters at Google, and a big part of that was I worked with my colleague Vlada, who was in Dublin, and we built out this program to put into onboarding. And uh, big part of that candidate experience was the no update update. I mean, I can't tell you how simple it is. It's just it needs to be an additive item that all recruiters reach out to anybody who's in the interview process, anywhere in the process, any stage, early stage, late stage, but they're somewhere in the interview process, and they block off the last hour on Friday to just say, "Hey, here's where we're at, just touching base, have a great weekend." It's very easy. I did this my entire time at Google, and sometimes on Friday, that was 2 PM. Sometimes that was 8:30 PM. Whenever I ended my day, that was the last step, and it's a really, really easy step to take. Um, so yeah, it's just really, really tough. I think you just gotta stay on top of them, again, just be gracious and kind, gracious and kind, gracious and kind. And then, obviously, if they're really not responsive, then we really need to be using this, okay? This kicks their butt a little bit. If you send this out, this is an overseas third party who's gonna reach out to them, and you'll hear back in 24 hours. They need to do their job. If they're not getting back to you and it's taking over a month, it's just not okay. It's just not a good experience overall. So it's really, really important that you take that step, Clark. And so the other piece that's really important to understand, and I'm going to continue to talk about this, and we'll talk a lot about this year, is I'm starting to question why we can't automate the recruiter's job, or at least a lot of pieces of it. Meaning that all these companies, Google included, should be building systems into their system where they could identify where you're at in the process and automate out messages. It would remove any of the anxiety, any of the stress that comes with not knowing where you stand. And I think that, and I'd love to get your opinion, and I've done a lot of polls on this, but I think at least 50% of the population would and I just did a recent poll on this, it was, like, about 100 votes, which isn't a ton, but I think about 55% said just to get timely feedback, they'd be completely willing to remove the recruiter from the process. And so, if you could do that, create really good tutorials, create really good feedback, you just won't need recruiters, or you won't need as many recruiters. You could have 1 recruiter doing the job of 5, basically, if most of it was automated. Okay, so we got lots of good positive feedback. Um, we got lots of positive feedback on the mic, so that's awesome. Um, yes, okay, you were there for the fire alarm. You handled that situation well. Um, and I think that part of it is this is the person that needs to show up on these lives, right? Like, we all get frustrated, and we all, just have moments. And this is just some of this stuff. I know I go into more like general coaching, but the piece that I've learned over running this business for over the last, now we're at 5+ years, is just that some of the basic skills translate so well into job search, interviewing, negotiation. And yes, sometimes we just got to roll with the punches. So let's kind of talk about that for a second. Like, what does that look like? So, one huge tip is, let's say the interview is just absolutely going terrible. Nothing's going right. Your interviewer is interrupting you. They're showing negative body language. They clearly look like they're typing or working on something else. It's a time for you to maybe reset the interview. You can kind of tell, like, they're not gonna recommend hire for you. So if we get into these really crazy scenarios, again, I know that this could feel a little risky, but if you're 20 minutes into an interview and you're just totally not aligned with Bob, for example, you just stop and you say, "Bob, I wanna make sure that we're creating a great experience for each other, and I believe I'm not taking the right steps to help you identify whether I'm a great candidate or not. Is there anything you'd like to for me to change in my approach that might create better alignment? I wanna make sure I'm showing you the best version of myself today." That's tricky, but what that can do is that can sometimes snap Bob out of it, remind Bob that Bob is in an interview and he's supposed to be nice to you. And so again, even though it feels really risky, I think sometimes when we get into these interviews, we're not just stopping in the moment when they're just going terrible and acknowledging it and taking ownership for it, even though it's probably Bob's fault, that we are basically trying to push through an interviewer that's not gonna recommend hiring us. So, take that chance, pivot, and say, "Hey, Bob, like, how can we get aligned?" And I really wanna make sure I'm showing you the best version of me. Then you make it I focused, and what that does is that is not poking at Bob, it's kind of poking at yourself, and that can be really, really powerful. If you ever get in that scenario, I recommend trying it. I still can't believe you were on the fire alarm one, though. That one was crazy. That was about, I know I was at my last place, so it was at least a couple of years ago, probably 2.5 years ago. How should this interview question be answered? Tell me about a time you received negative feedback. Great question. Okay, let's talk about the negative questions. Negative feedback, a time you failed, a conflict, all these items that are going to start with the idea and concept of something negative. We address the negative item and we get to positive as quickly as possible. So instead of giving all the background and all the context and everything that happened to leading up to that negative feedback, we just introduce it right away. This is my time working as a technical recruiter at Google, and the negative feedback I received was A, B, and C. Let me tell you about the actions I took over the next 3 months to improve upon that negative feedback I received. Then, boom, you start talking about positive actions you took to improve. And then we go into the results. And because of this, A, B, and C, so much of what happens with these negative questions is that the vast, vast majority of candidates, and trust me, I mean, I think we're at like 20,000 plus questions that I've asked to candidates in my lifetime as a recruiter and as an interview coach. And so many people will spend so much time building the context to make themselves look better. Just say the negative feedback and talk about the actions you took to get better. That will be a absolute game changer when you get these kinds of questions. It's a negative question. Address the negativity and go positive. It will yield great results. How is information details in the CV used after you started the technical interviews? Um, it depends. It depends. Sometimes at many companies, the CV is irrelevant to the interview questions. They have an interview path, an interview plan, and many times they're not gonna dig that much into the resume. Now, the hiring manager might be a little bit more likely to dig into it, but for the most part, they're gonna have their set questions. They may look at it, they may address it. Here's the other thing. What I've seen a trend towards, and I really like, is there's a little bit of a trend towards not looking at the resume at all. And because not looking at the resume reduces or removes any bias. I don't wanna know that you worked at X company that I really like or really don't like. I don't really wanna know that much about you. So, if I were going into the interview process and working for a company these days, I wouldn't look at your resume. I just wanna kind of learn and get to know you. And then in the interview, I'd be looking for those details to come out, for you to be setting the context and a behavioral answer of where you worked, what the role was, and again, doing that with specificity and being very brief at the same time. I hope that helps. Hey, Jeff. I was curious if Google has two different rounds of team matching. Is there an initial team match stage followed by a later one in the hiring process? Is there only one team match? Only one. So Google, from my understanding, and this has probably been we're probably at like 18 months to 2 years, made a little bit of a change where they said, we don't want so many people to get stuck at the team matching phase at the end of the interview process. So they have tried to get more people in the team matching phase earlier on, meaning you come in, you do just like a generic interview. Let's say it's for like a program manager role. You do one generic interview, they really like you. Then they try to find a team before they put you through the rest of the slate of interviews. It's better for everybody. So it either happens after maybe no interviews or one initial interview, or it happens after all the interviews, or in a case where you just go through a interview process and you kill it, your recruiter is going to take you right to hiring committee because then it becomes easier to sell you, right? And that's what it is. They're trying to sell you to hiring managers to say, hey, this specific candidate is HC approved because HC approved, it's just a smaller barrier to get you onboarded. I hope that helps. So it's really three stages: beginning, after the interviews, or after HC are the three typical stages where that will the team match will come up. Yeah. Hi, Jeff. Greetings from Chile. Awesome, amazing. I had one amazing day in Santiago. It was so beautiful, and I want to get back and explore more. This was like 5 years ago, but I loved it. Um, I'd like to ask, what are your thoughts about the job market in general? Do you think 2024 will be better than 2023? Thanks in advance for this great content. Thanks for being here. Um, I don't believe that 2024 will be a better job market. I think that there's just a lot of economic and recessionary trends that are likely to hit. That I just think 2024 is going to be tough. And again, I'm obviously, as people know, a very positive person, but I'm also very logical. And just based on all the data and everything I'm seeing, I think 2024 will continue to be a little bit tougher from a job market perspective, and that's obviously our focus in the downtime is to talk about this job market. I also want to and will continue to introduce what's not being talked about and what we especially this audience, right? Most of this audience has a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit better pulse on technology and what's happening in the tech world. AI is going to start replacing jobs. We have to stop denying that this is the truth. And by we, I'm saying the general public. I do a lot of LinkedIn polls and people just think that AI is never going to take their job. It's not a reality, right? And so part of the economics could happen at some of the lower level positions that get automated out this year, but that will have an impact on the overall job market as well. So just as we're looking at 2024, yeah, I think it's gonna be a leaner, lighter year. I can already tell you from my business's perspective, it's already starting very, very lean, starting slower than it was last year. So everything I see directly correlates to my business, and I just have seen it start off really slow, but we're still getting warmed up. We're in week 2, so we'll just continue to keep the pulse on this week to week. We're on the 30s. I'm gonna do a quick check-in or prompt to my services really. So, if this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do one-on-one interview, one-on-one negotiation coaching. I also have an interview mastery course. I have a $200 discount on that course just today. So the code is just the abbreviation of Happy New Year 24. So HN Happy New Year, HNY24, HNY24, and that's available till 11:59 Pacific Time today. If you like what I'm doing, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, new original content every Monday, and I go live at now 9 AM Pacific Time every Tuesday. I put that out to the YouTube community, and people are saying 9 AM, and I really wanna make sure that we were just hitting a time that was a little bit better for our global audience, so going a little earlier, I think, is better. All right, let's get back to it. Hi, Jeff. Just got a response. The final feedback received by the recruiter this afternoon, so hopefully we'll hear more, although no timelines given. Thanks again. Yeah, so Clark, I don't know if you know that I did this, but let's talk about it because it's fun. And I don't think we have a ton of questions waiting in the queue. So um, please, any new questions? Remember, questions, comments, feedback, anything is valuable and important. Any way you think we can help build this community. And remember, that's what this is for. These live sessions are 100% community driven, and I love going live for the community. It's a way to connect, get a pulse. I get a lot of data, and I get informed about things too. I mean, I think one of the items that I always try to tell the audience is I understand I've done some content, for Google and on Google and the Google process, but really, when you think about what I do, I'm more generic. I'm more of an interview and negotiation coach, and the advice really applies anywhere. Some of the data I get on Google, I left. We're approaching 6 years ago. It's starting to be a long time, and yeah, of course, I still get a lot of information and data coming my way, but I seek it out a lot less than I used to. So, Clark, I got pretty frustrated after hearing back from you multiple times about what was going on and your recruiter's inability to get feedback. And so I did a LinkedIn post and I threw Google recruiters under the bus. And it wasn't just Google recruiters, it's all recruiters. Recruiters need to take ownership for getting interview feedback. And if it's just lagging, that's an outcome that they have control over. And so I got some negative comments. It's okay, right? And you got to treat all negativity with positivity. It's a great way to take the higher ground. But the reality is that if all recruiters actively reached out to those interviewers, reached out to their managers, reached out to their managers' managers, got their leads involved, and let everybody know, "If you don't provide feedback, this is the path I'm gonna take." They'd get interview feedback much quicker because you waited a month, 5 weeks, 6 weeks for one person to provide interview feedback. That is a terrible candidate experience, and by the way, when it's all over, you should massively complain about it in the survey because they need that feedback because it's 100% unacceptable. Just giving these interviewers outs because they're busy, they're out of the office, it's not acceptable. If they signed up for an interview, they have a responsibility to complete that feedback in a timely manner. Hi, how are you? Okay, let's go to this. Okay, let's see this. AI already impacted the Google Ads team, reorg and layoffs. All right, let's learn a little bit more about this. Already used the meta referral and got to the loop, but no offer. Should I reach out to the same referral, another meta role? Okay, so first things first, we're going to come back to this one in a moment. But Absolutely. One of the things that we need to do, and this is really important for the audience, you gotta lean into your referrers. If they're willing to refer you for one role, double down. We gotta ask the people who are willing to help us, we gotta double down and really get that help that we need. So, anytime I find anybody who's willing to help me, I just wanna double down and get that help. So, do what you can to lean into that person. I always wanna go back to the same referrer, and we're gonna be gracious and kind, and by the way, like, "Hey, are we gonna bribe people sometimes?" Yeah, in a really nice way. If the referrer is somebody we know, which obviously 99% of the time it is. Maybe just say a thank you with like a restaurant gift card or a bottle of wine or some great coffee. I always think food and drinks are the way to people's hearts, so we can always do that too as a motivator. Um, okay, so let's come back here. So I want you to go into Slack and check your DM 'cause, I had reached out to you about, early adopter status. So if you can go in your Slack and follow up with me, that would be great. And then AI already impacted the Google Ads team. AI is gonna start impacting a lot of things. And by the way, I forgot to mention, my AI tool, February 26th. That's the launch date for our global paid launch will be on the 26th. If you haven't signed up as an early adopter, just go to practiceinterviews.com. You'll see the green button in the top right corner, and you can sign up. If you don't wanna beta test the tool for free, that's totally cool, but sign up as an early adopter because 'cause you're gonna get a huge discount when it goes to the paid launch. Okay. Sorry, I'm detracting a little bit, but this is really important. AI is gonna remove jobs. The pace, we're n w we're not thinking enough, I believe, about the pace, and the pace is gonna be just crazier and faster than anything we've seen. Hey, Jeff, thanks for the insights. When is the best time to have a compensation discussion? First, you talk to the recruiter or later in the loop? Is levels.fyi accurate for mid to senior level roles at big companies like Google? Okay, so let's address this. This is kind of a two-part question. So I have a strong, strong belief that we do not talk about comp until they want to hire us. It puts us at an advantage. We're in a better place to talk about comp when all the decision makers and stakeholders are saying, we want that person. So whenever they want to talk about comp, I want to learn more about the role. I want to meet the team. I'm open and negotiable for the right opportunity. But you're just going to deflect, push. If you have to fill out a form, put zero. They're going to say, hey, I saw you put zero. Hey, I still want to learn more about the role. Hey, can you provide me a range? Yeah, just I want to learn more. I'm happy to discuss it. And I know you're doing your job. So we can always acknowledge, say, hey, I know it's your job to get my comp range, but I just need to learn a little bit more before taking that step. So push, deflect. We will make more money if we don't talk about money until they want to hire us. And then levels.fyi is pretty good. Okay. So what you really want to do is you really want to look at recent offers. You definitely want to click that box, new offers only. Anybody who's been at the company, their comp is going to be based on performance. So we can't look at those. So new offers only. Then just understand for whatever reason, there's some funkiness in levels.fyi. Some people will show up with a 0 bonus. That's like, well, we know at Google the bonus is pretty much guaranteed, right? So there's just a little bit of funkiness, but it's actually a great resource and something that wasn't available a few years ago, but I definitely recommend it. And lastly, what I always tell people is if you can't find your role, if it's like even technical or just not what you think a software engineer pays, calculate that software engineer role for that location new offers only and times it by 70%, 80%, and that's your likely comp. So you're probably gonna anchor at what a software engineer would make or more. But if you don't have a lot of data on your area, try to figure out, okay, what's another area that has a similar cost of living? So, for example, maybe there's a ton of data on on an office like Atlanta or Chicago, they pay pretty comparable, but there's nothing on Charlotte. Charlotte's probably gonna pay in the US something similar to those markets. So you look up those markets and say, "Okay, cost of living is pretty similar, so I can go with those numbers." I know it's a lot of data. I hope it helps. Let me know if you have any questions. Hey, Jeff, another question. Tell me about a time you prioritized your own goals over your team's goals. Wow, I honestly haven't heard, this question before. Um, this is a really interesting one because this is a little bit challenging because you do always wanna be overall team focused. Um, wow, so you may wanna take this answer and say, "Okay, this is an example." You may wanna talk through where you needed to step away from your team to get some things done, but then ultimately you can say, by taking those steps, the last action was to bring my team back in, inform them why I had stepped away, why I had done what I had done, and why I saw that to be valuable, and then how you documented, shared, socialized that, and then what were the positive results. I wouldn't bring in an example where you just totally stepped away and never brought your team back into it. I bring up an example where you had to step away on your own to make it better in the short term, but in the longer term, you were making it better for your team. I don't know. I don't know if you have an example like that. It's a really interesting question. I haven't seen that before. And by the way, I think I'm considering, I just wanna let the audience know, I'm considering doing like a 30 days of YouTube videos. It's a lot, but where I would do a Q&A for 30 straight days leading up to my AI launch. So, this may be one question that I would look to tackle. I might create like some sort of platform or format where people could add questions, that I could cover in those videos. Thanks for that. It's a really interesting question. I've had 3 interviews with a tech company, including a case study in mid-December. Despite following up twice after the interview and still seeing the job posted, I haven't received any response from the recruiter. Should I move on? And it is a good idea to contact the hiring manager directly. So, okay, so when you had 3 interviews with a tech company in mid-December, so we're sitting at January 9th right now. Here's my recommendation. If it was mid-December, we're gonna go to a month out. So, you're gonna give your recruiter another opportunity. "Thank you so much," or sorry, I'm not gonna say thank you so much. We're gonna say, "Hi, how are you? I hope your new year is off to a great start." If you haven't already reached out to them. If you have, "Hey, hope everything's well. Wanted to check in again on the status. I'm still excited and enthusiastic about the opportunity. Have a great day. Thanks." So, we wanna be positive, positive, positive. If you hit a month and you haven't heard back, yep, hit up the hiring manager. Now, of course, we don't know what tech company it is, so if it is Google, come back and let us know because there's another path you can take. Okay, sorry, and it looks like yes, okay, so cool. Hey, saw the LinkedIn post, thought it was great personally. I didn't comment just to be safe whilst in the recruitment process. Okay, cool. Yeah, and I'm really again, I think people know me as a pretty positive person. I am pretty positive. I mean, I have so much to be grateful for. Doesn't mean that life doesn't present its challenges, but I have just if you build your foundation in gratitude, your life's just gonna be better, in my opinion. I'm really tough on recruiters. I've earned it. I basically there's some recruiting stuff that you don't see in my background on my LinkedIn profile, but even when I started this business, I was still doing some recruiting. And so I have almost 15 years of recruiting experience. I know what it looks like to be a good recruiter, and I did it at the highest level for a little while too, and so, I'm tough on recruiters because I know that if they just did 3 things, they would be great. So, they only really need to do 3 things. 1, they need to have great calendar management. Secondly, they need to have great inbox management. And then third, they need to have great applicant tracking system management. And all 3 of those items You can create really simplistic systems, and recruiters would be shocked at how easy their job gets if they do that. Now, the last piece, and the default mode for me, candidate experience first. So I focused just on candidate experience. That was my primary goal, candidate experience first, and then everything else is more successful if they start with that foundation. Eric, just want to drop a comment here. Whatever advice Jeff gives is absolutely golden. He gave me the best advice for interviews and also kept me updated with current landscape. Thanks. I appreciate the positive feedback. Obviously, positivity is awesome, and thanks. And I try my best to give as much good feedback and information as possible. And the only reason why I'm able to do that is because of the community. It's because of my clients. I really feel like that's been the differentiator. At 2,500 plus sessions, one on one, I just learned so much, and that will be the foundation of the AI tool, so that people can get more of the coaching that is truly Jeff, but get it at a lower price point and be able to interact with it anytime. And I mean, look, I see what AI is doing in the market. Part of my AI tool is to replace myself, right? But I was only able to build those prompts based on a community like this and all the time spent with clients. Their article and news about Google layoffs coming up. Whoa, about yeah, that would be I don't know if you meant to write 33,000. My eyes, I need some glasses. I think that is 33,000. In January seems incorrect, but it could be less, mainly in the ads, or 33,000 would be a lot, but if they are doing another layoff, this is just a constant reminder, everyone. Companies are going to look at their bottom line. Simon Simek, I don't know if I'm saying his last name right. I think most of you know, guy with glasses, probably late 30s, really smart guy, has written multiple books. You see him online everywhere. And I saw a video with him talking about the layoff trend, and layoffs didn't used to be a thing. Like, it was only popularized in somewhat recent history in business, but now that it's popularized, we're gonna see it continue to happen, and companies are gonna look out for their bottom line. What does that mean? We have to always protect ourselves if we are going to work in a corporate environment. Make sure your interview skills are staying sharp. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is stellar, because we want to be able to make quick pivots and quick moves, especially if we're part of a bigger layoff. And um, no company is going to protect their employees anymore. This isn't the way it used to be. We need to really, really protect ourselves. Okay. Just got rejected for Amazon internship after behavioral interview. Tomorrow, I have a final behavioral interview with MongoDB. Which tips would you give me to be able to get this internship? Okay, so with behavioral answers, let's talk about some of the criticality in behavioral answers. We really need to listen to the question, write it down, and restate it. We really need to listen to the question, write it down, and restate it. I'm being repetitive for a reason. 99% of candidates at some point in the interview process will answer the wrong question or a skewed version of the question they believe they were asked. We've got to make sure we're answering the right question. Then, every behavioral question is going to have a pivot point. What does that mean? The question is asking you for what happened at a certain time. So all the context leading up to that time isn't very valuable. You got to outline it really quickly, set the credibility with your role in the company, give a few sentences, and then give them the timeline to complete it. In the actions, typical actions for any behavioral answer: data and conversations, testing and execution, launching, presenting, and documenting. We got to go through all the steps. Tell me what you did and support it with how you did it. What did you do? How'd you do it? What did you do? How'd you do it? And then results. Make sure that it's numbers driven, that I really feel the impact of those results and any repeatability. You won for here, but how did you win for here? I hope that helps. I know that's a lot to throw at you in a short period of time. Obviously, I've done a ton of behavioral, videos on YouTube, and I definitely recommend you check those out. Let's be honest, the newer content is better. The old content, it's good, but I've learned because of the community, because of the clients. So the newer content, in my opinion, I hope I continue to get better and that the feedback I provide gets better and that as I continually learn and grow, that yeah, the newer videos, is my strong recommendation. And I did do a what's in house video, and then I did do a recent video on the perfect behavioral answer. Check those out, and then some of the sample ones that I've done recently as well. Uh, I haven't heard anything about layoffs. Sometimes I need to actively check in and get the pulse. But again, it's 6 years out. It'll be 6 years, next month. Um, I've annoyed a lot of people a lot of times, and so, sometimes people will randomly reach out to me on LinkedIn and ask me to refer them in. It's like, wow, I got my hand slapped about that so many times 5 years ago that I can't do stuff like that anymore, and I have to be really careful because I have this group of 5 or 6 people that I really rely on. So I try to spread the love and find out information. I'll check in and see if I can get a pulse, and then we can talk about it next week. Complimenting about the company with 50 questions about behavioral. It is Google engineering role in Brazil. So, okay. So they're asking you to answer 50 questions before getting into the interview process. Like they want 50 written answers. Interesting. Okay. I mean, this will be interesting. Okay, because I mean, I think what you can do, let's talk about what you can do. You can take your resume, take the job description, paste those paste one by one, probably one by one into ChatGPT and say, based on my resume and based on this question, answer the question for me. And then just have it repeat 50 times, and then you can go back and clean it up. Asking you to do 50 answers beforehand, that is an obscene amount of work and will be a huge barrier to entry for them hiring the best people. Answering 50 questions in written form, which is what I'm guessing they're looking for, that's a ton of work, okay? I think that'll be really overwhelming, and I think that's a terrible, terrible idea from a recruitment process standpoint. Is it okay to negotiate a higher salary after agreeing to one during the initial recruiter call? It seems like being outside the salary range may affect the chances of advancing to the next round. Yes, you can negotiate a higher salary, but at the end, we're not trying to do it later. I would just say delay, delay, delay. Then you can talk about moving the numbers up. And if they say, whoa, 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 this is not what you said initially. Absolutely, 100%. It is not what I said initially. After having the opportunity to meet with the team, learn a little bit more about the role and the responsibilities, I need to readjust my expectations a little bit, and now I'm looking for why. See how they push back, and again, I think you said it's Uber. Um, what do you suggest to say to the hiring manager? Don't wanna put the recruiter on blast for not responding. Okay, so with Uber, yeah, always with negotiations with Uber, they're like pretty flexible. They're not gonna rescind the offer because you push, but just make sure you're doing it in a really gracious and kind way. If you reach out to the hiring manager, you wanna be gracious and kind, and we're not really throwing that recruiter under the bus, we may not even bring them up. You might say, "Hey," let's say the hiring manager is Sue. "Hey, Sue, it was really great having the opportunity to engage and connect with you in December. I'm not really sure what the process looks like, but I wanted to check in on my status and see how things are progressing. Happy New Year. Hope everything's great." And we're not really even gonna talk about the recruiter. Remember, as candidates, we're not supposed to understand who we should be talking to, and if the recruiter's not responsive, hey, we gotta go around them, okay? We need to rely on them for a little bit, but anytime we hit the 4 weeks to a month stage without hearing back, nope, gone right around them because it's just too long. Like, that's a crazy, crazy amount of time. They don't know how to do their job at all if they can't follow up within a month. And any recruiter that would combat that comment, they just there's literally no excuse for not getting back to you for a 1-month time period. It means that they have literally no organizational skills. And by the way, that's a lot of recruiters. The rumor was incorrect, but apparently ads reorg includes layoffs. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, ads is still their biggest moneymaker, so it's always interesting to see them lay off in an organization that makes them the most money. But yeah, Simon Sinek. Yes, I always wanna say Simek, but it's Sinek. Yes, and anybody who wants type in Simon Sinek and, like, and in Boolean, so capital and, layoffs. It's really interesting the historical context around layoffs, or just Google or talk with ChatGPT about the historical context of layoffs because it's really new. It hasn't always been a part of corporate culture to just lay everybody off, and that's why people used to spend 30 or 40 years at a job because the layoffs weren't really a part of it, right? So it's super interesting, and I think it's just always important to be informed. Watch your videos. Help me a lot with my interviews with the recruiters. Thank you. Do you have any suggestions on what to prepare, focus on for an interview with the hiring managers? Everything. Yeah, hiring manager interviews to me are an absolute wild card at every company. They can go a little rogue. I've seen it everywhere, including Google. They'll just ask what they want. So you really want to think about, okay, what are the role responsibilities? And so not only how have you handled those role responsibilities in your career, but how would you handle them in that job? Really look for both hypothetical and behavioral questions. And again, this could be at any company. Then for me, the biggest challenge with the hiring manager interview comes at the end when they ask for questions and candidates have a me focus. How am I going to do? What is this? What is this for me, me, me? I flip it on them. What do you love about the job? What do you love about the company? What do you love about your team? What's the coolest thing you're working on right now to the extent that you can share with me? 3 or 4 questions about them. Remember, this is an opportunity. If they are not singing the praises of the organization and their team, you may want to second guess whether you want to work for them because they're saying, "Ah, the organization has some challenges. The team is a mess right now." You don't want that job. But the primary reason for doing it is when people talk about themselves, they like you more. And that's data. That's scientifically backed. And you'll hear me say that a lot, but it's the reality. People like you more when they talk about themselves. So typically, we only have time for like 3 or 4 questions at the end of an interview. Why not have them talk about themselves? Then when the interview ends, they think, "Wow, I really like that person," but it's because they ended talking about things that they liked or they loved. It's a psychological trick, and it works well. Then, if you have additional more pressing questions, ask those in a follow-up meeting to determine whether you wanna take the role, but you'd only do that once they had decided they wanted to hire you. I hope that helps. Which program language is best for DSA? DSA, data structures and algorithms? I mean, it really depends on the person and what your expertise is. Obviously, over the last 10 years plus, we've seen a real push towards Python and maybe less of a push towards other languages, but it's really up to you, and I would say, lean into the language you know the best and just make sure that that's the language that the role, wants to hire. Yeah, I know that's not great advice, but I hope it helps. What would be your main tips for optimizing my resume for an AVP role at Google? My experience completely aligns with the job specification, so I'd really like to give it a shot. Okay. Yes, watch your AVP interview techniques, very helpful. Awesome. So, with the resume, and I'm gonna give the same advice, this is advice for anybody. Take your resume, take the job description, paste them into ChatGPT, and say, "ChatGPT, highlight for me the 5 items that are aligned between my resume and the job description." Then that's the summary section on the top of your resume. We always wanna create role-specific summaries on the top of our resume for each new job we apply to. Why? Because with ChatGPT, it takes us 2 to 3 minutes to get that information. Then what happens? Recruiters, especially a recruiter at Google, if they do come across your resume, you got 3 to 5 seconds to impress them. So if you have a bulleted summary at the top and they're gonna say, "Oh, match, match, match," then they're gonna take a quick look at your experience and you say, "Okay, everything matches. I'm gonna email this person. I'm gonna call this person." Makes it really, really easy. The bulleted summary, I'm not very particular about a lot of items on the resume, but a bulleted summary that's role specific at the top, it's critical for getting past the ATS, getting recruiters to like you, etc. Okay, we are at the 1 hour mark and we still got a good audience. We're out of questions, so it's a great time to throw out a pitch on my services. And then, of course, if any additional questions come in, I'm happy to answer them. February 26th. That's our launch date for Practice Interviews AI. I'm so excited about this. If you have not signed up as an early adopter, you don't want to test it. That's okay. You want to test it, great. We're allowing people on the platform to test it for free. But the early adopter, you're going to get a big discount. We're thinking around the 30 to 50% range for early adopters. So you just need to be added to that email list and you'll get that right away. So I just keep recommending that people hop on there just for that discount because we're only going to give it the discount to early adopters. Um, I still do interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching. In our interview mastery course, with the interview mastery course, $200 off just today. And so that's Happy New Year. So HNY24. HNY24. That's the coupon code, and you'll get $200 off the interview mastery course. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, new original content videos every Monday. Now I'm going live at 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, and I'm gonna try to get those new original content videos out on Monday, by 7 or 8 a.m. I'm gonna really try to push for that this year. Okay, how do I sign up? Awesome, thanks for asking. So we'll go to banners, and boom. You can go to just practiceinterviews.com. We've built in the little tab on the homepage, or you can go to practiceinterviews.com/AI, become an early adopter. And again, it's basically, we are following, and I'm happy to provide insight. I think everybody knows I'm a pretty open book. We're following the lean startup model. When I say we, I brought in a full development team. This is not, it's not a small initiative. It's a 6-month project to make sure that this product is as good as it can be before launching. And then, of course, we're going to spend a lot of money continuing to improve it and update it based on user feedback. But here's what's going on. We're allowing early adopters on there. We're letting them test it, give us feedback. And the lean startup model is feedback, iterate, feedback, iterate, feedback, iterate. So we're doing that for 3 months. We don't want to just launch a tool to market and guess at what the users want. We want the users to tell us what they want, and that will help us bring in those final features and updates. I think that what's people are really gonna like about the tool is we are going to give you bite-sized feedback that breaks down your answer into sections and allows you to answer or fix just a piece of your answer. So if you have 5 minutes to practice, we're hoping you can improve a little bit on the results section of your behavioral question. If you have just 10 minutes to practice, we're gonna identify how you can build better frameworks. The challenge I've seen with the competition, and by the way, I have tested all the competition. I have spent hours and hours and hours on the competition. It throws so much at the user. It's just so overwhelming. It's hard to know what to look at, what to fix. We're gonna break that down into smaller pieces, and that's the feedback we're getting is that people like that, but we'll continue to adapt and adjust as needed. I know that was a tangent. Thanks for listening. Okay, let's get right back to questions here. We're still out of questions. Okay, So we have a pretty good audience, so I'm gonna hang out for a little bit. Let's talk about navigating the 2024 job market, see if any questions come in. If they don't in the next 2 or 3 minutes, I'll wrap up, but the 2024 job market, it's gonna be tough, I think. I think we just see a lot of trends, especially in tech, a little less hiring. It's gonna be a little slower this year. How can you stand out? LinkedIn. Let's really start with our LinkedIn profiles. You really wanna be found when you're not doing anything, and LinkedIn is that tool, and I constantly remind people, I got my job at Google because of LinkedIn. I didn't apply, I didn't do anything. They reached out to me, and I just can't emphasize that enough. Basically put in no work to get the job at Google. Of course, yes, I had to prep for the interviews, I had to pass the interviews, I had to then get in and prove myself as a contractor and then do more interviews, and yeah, I had to do all that stuff. But I would never get in the door without a good LinkedIn profile. So optimize, 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 and really the value is monetary, right? The value over time, if you get an elite job, is you're just gonna make more money. So that's the value of it, and if you don't understand how to update your LinkedIn profile, there's just a million resources out there, and the joke that all career content creators have, and I know because 'cause I'm friends with a lot of ballers like Madeline Mann and Heather Austin and Cassandra Thompson and Holly Lee and all these people who kill it in the career space, and we all joke that nobody watches our LinkedIn videos, but that's the lowest hanging fruit for the 2024 job market. 30 minutes to 1 hour can change your life. So, really focus in on that. Really focus in on a referral and networking strategy. There are more job applications than there's ever been. Why? Because it's easier to apply than it's ever been. All like the easy apply button on LinkedIn and all that stuff. It's just so easy to apply to jobs. It takes little to no effort. So now you're competing with a lot more people for the jobs. So that's just something else that I really want to remind everybody about. If you are going to apply, which I don't recommend, but if you are going to apply, go directly through their careers page. Don't go through a third party like Indeed or LinkedIn. Definitely make sure you're going right to their careers page. It's not always going to help, but it really can't hurt you. And then referrals. Sometimes we don't know that our friends have landed at the companies we want to be at. So just look for your connections on LinkedIn. Maybe they've moved to that company. You want to do anything you can to get referrals and then networking. I've talked a lot about this. Give first. You come across Sue's profile, you think Sue is a hiring manager for a role that you want to apply to, send Sue a LinkedIn connection, and in that say, "Hey, Sue, came across your profile. Came across this really cool article last week on AI that I think you might like. Hope you enjoy it. Have a great day." So many people are asking for something on LinkedIn. Let's give them something. It's a long approach, but trust me, it works. Okay. We have a good audience. We're almost at our peak for viewers, but without any other comments, I think it's probably a good breaking point for us. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. We are going to try and crush 2024 as much as we can, and we're going to do anything and everything to stand out as much as we can. I will be here and show up week after week for the community. If you have not signed up to be an early adopter for Practice Interviews AI tool, we're going to give you a discount if you don't want to test it. So get that discount. You'll be added to the list. You'll be guaranteed the discount. And I think just that for the 3 seconds it takes to sign up is worth it. Let's answer this last question. Hey, Jeff, applying to jobs on LinkedIn relevant to my expertise. One of the recruiters replied saying that they are handling 100 plus roles and slammed. I offered to help them and said I'm interested. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if they're handling 100 plus roles, that it's never gonna work. If it recruiters cannot handle 100 plus roles at the same time unless they're all the same exact role, which probably unlikely, right? 100 plus roles. It's also not a recruiter. A recruiter shouldn't be telling you
how much work they have on their plate. Like, that's also ridiculous. Like, that's just they need to do their job, but any job that's giving a recruiter 100 plus roles, isn't setting them up for success, and honestly, I've never heard of any recruiter handling 100 plus roles. Never. Now, if they were all the same role, maybe, but 100 plus roles where you have different unique roles, which is probably what they're prompting at, uh, don't really believe it, but again, who knows? But that would be a lot. Thank you for being here. Again, I always just wanna hang out for that last second just to see if any new questions come in, but I know we've kinda slowed down, even though we have a pretty good audience. So I'll end here. Thank you so much for being here. Have a fantastic day, and I will be back next week at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks so much. Have a good one.